Welcome, everybody, to the Alopecia Angel podcast. I'm your host, Johanna Dahlman. I'm so excited to be here with you today, bringing you Angie Tumlinson to the podcast. Angie is a mother and a wife and a business owner and community leader. 10 years ago, she started asking herself the very questions that she is going to be asking you today. In doing so, she learned how to make decisions and become fully aware, and as a result, turned her annual income into her monthly income. The change in her own life was so dramatic that she was compelled to help others do the same. As a science of the mind integration expert, Angie is passionate about helping individuals make decisions from a higher spiritual perspective. Her guidance empowers others to elevate their lives, creating meaningful and lasting transformation. Recognized as a natural universal laws expert, I can't wait to dive into this. Angie combines her profound understanding of these principles with the practical application, setting her apart in her field. Her expertise has earned her the opportunity to collaborate with some of the most influential mindset coaches and spiritual leaders of our time. Angie's focus on transformation is a welcome and needed shift in an overindulgent information culture. The shift in mindset creates a massive impact in the lives of people who work with Angie. It is your God-given right to have whatever you want in life. Amen to that, Angie. I am so excited. Thank you so much for coming onto the podcast today.
You're welcome. And thank you so much for having me come on and speak to your audience. I'm very excited to be here and to support in any way that I can. Thank you.
No, thank you. Let's talk about the natural laws, because I think that's where we should just start. What are the natural laws? What does that look like? Are there too many to name? Can we name them all? And can we give a little brief synopsis of what each one does and doesn't do for us?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of misconceptions out there about natural laws or universal laws. People interchange them all the time, but I teach natural laws. So there's 7 natural laws, and then people talk about the 12 universal laws. And then there's people who combine them and say, like the law of compassion, for example, those are using elements of the natural laws. So the 7 natural laws, the first one is perpetual transmutation. When I first started learning about energy, I have a big church background. And so I have a lot of beliefs and a lot of understanding of God through the lens of religion. But every single religion, every single culture is always talking about how this form is used. Some people call it God, some people call it energy, some people call it source, some people call it infinite intelligence. It is a higher something that is beyond what we know, that allows us to go further than we've ever done before. So perpetual transmutation is acknowledging that energy and being able to understand energy moves through. I look at perpetual transmutation a lot like a lighthouse. Whatever energy I'm holding, I'm sending it out. I'm always sending it out. We're like a beacon that sends out energy all the time. Our thoughts, our feelings, everything. Not just the physical things we do, but even our thoughts that maybe are unspoken, they'll be sent out. So let's say you come home and you've had a hard day and you're upset and the dog gets in the way and you push the dog aside. That's energy that you're transferring to the dog. And then the dog gets upset at the cat, and then the cat gets upset. The energy follows it. Whenever energy comes, I've learned to help transmute that energy into something good that I want to see in the world. And usually it really works if you have a goal or a vision for your life. And when you have that goal or vision, any energy that comes, you want to be able to turn that around and have it go out with your vision. And what most people do is they don't know the power of energy, so they don't know to turn it around and make it be meaningful. Somebody yells at them and they take that energy and they keep it in them all day long, and then they spew it out all day long. But you can take it and turn that energy around with another natural law called the law of polarity, or the law of opposites. So for every in, there's an out. For every up, there's a down. There's always something that defines us light and dark. The only way that you know something is light is if you can compare it to something that's dark. And so we always have something of opposites. So whenever energy comes, you can turn it around and make it mean something else. This is really key when you're learning to live in a higher idea of yourself. Is this making sense?
It is. So maybe you could help our listeners, maybe we can go through each law and see how it applies to health, healing, hair, and anything else that we want to improve in our lives. Because when we give tactical or practical examples, then we can extrapolate it, at the time of this recording, there's a lot of change happening economically, politically, around the world, in states, countries, all over. I think it would help us have a better understanding of how these natural laws, like where they came from, each one, what are they, and how it can apply to our lives. And so I'd love to expand on that.
I really like this because there's two things that I would really love to get clear really quickly, is that most people want to work on their health. They know all these health things that they can do, but they never work on their wellness. They never have a feeling or a sense of wellness. And they may work on their health to the point that it's detrimental because they have a belief that they're not healthy. So they never work on their wellness. So if you understand the difference between those two things, you create a world totally different. I've met a lot of people who do a lot of healthy things, but don't have a sense of wellness. You can see people who want to work on their wealth. They talk about wealth, they do wealth principles, they do everything, but they don't have a sense of richness in their life. It's an energy that we are creating without a full spiritual understanding of ourself to tap into things. If the body is an instrument of the mind, what is the mind holding on to? And so if we understand that we're reading energy with our body all the time, and if you're reading energy and it resonates with you, you're going to start telling yourself stories in the mind. And what you want to do is say, no, my mind controls what's happening here. This is what I want to see in the world. So if I have a belief that the government is wrong, the government's evil, if I have a feeling that people are out to get each other because that's what I feel that I see in politics, that's an idea that I'm holding. That's not an idea of what they're holding. It's an idea I'm holding. We create our reality. The laws of physics are happening in the present. Everything is governed by time, distance, mass, electrical charge. Everything in the present is happening with that. When we understand the natural laws in the quantum field, which the quantum field, it's a future idea, it's a possibility. It is already happening, but we get to choose what timeline we want to be on. We get to choose that. And there's opulent opportunities for you to choose which timeline you want to be on. And all timelines work all at the same time. And so this is a hard thing for people to get their head around because they want quantum physics to act like physics, and it doesn't. Because in the quantum realm, we don't need time, distance, mass, and electrical charge. We can go there. We can just go there and be there. And you can get into that frequency or that energy of it and bring it back to the present moment and start living from that. This is how you can shift your thinking so quickly. One of the things in learning the natural laws was understanding that I can go into the quantum realm, build an image of what I would love, feel the feeling of that, and now I start radiating that here. What happens is most people let what's happening out there, which is a habit that you're used to, begin to tell you how to think. This is why we keep creating, I want this, but this is the reality. And we keep doing that to where we're creating so many vibrations in our body is not at ease. We're at a sense of dis-ease. And dis-ease will show up in the body because the mind is not clear. When you're clear, you're kind. When you're unclear, you're unkind. So this is work that each one of us has to do. There is no one coming to fix it. There is no one. It's something that each of us has got to get to a point of understanding, what do I want in the world? But we're so attached to everyone else that we don't actually know our freedom is understanding ourselves. Therefore, we can understand another. Not to be like us, because we're unique and different, but to be able to approach and say, that's right for you, because I know what's right for me. Instead, we say, if you're not like me, then we can't be friends. If you can't have the same vibration, the same frequency as me, we can't be friends. And instead, what helps is to be in harmony with one another instead of dissonance. And if you don't understand how to do that, you create results in your life. And the results in your life will always show the way you're thinking. It's called a paradigm. A paradigm is a multitude of habits and behaviors that we do. And so if we want to change our behavior, or if we want to change our paradigm, we've got to understand how we are thinking, not make everyone think the way we think. We have to get into a place of understanding the way we think first. And what happens is we get really bothered when somebody's not in harmony with us. And instead of hearing what is it that you want, not going to fix them or control them, but to be able to say, tell me what it is that you want. And if I can help you, I will. Not at the detriment of my own peace, not at the loss of my own space. People think helping one another means sacrificing yourself. I don't think that's what it means. I think know yourself so you'll know another's self. You don't have to fix people. I hear people all the time, I'll ask them, what would you love to do? What would you love? And they'll say, I want to help people. And I'll say, okay, I love that. What would you like to help them with? And so they'll tell me, I want to help people with this idea. And I'll say, fantastic. But what they really want to do is tell people what they know about it, not really tell them, how can I help you with my idea? I want to tell you what I know, and I want you to do what I do, and I want you to like what I like. And that's how we think harmony works. And that isn't what harmony is. That's control. Harmony is when we say, I appreciate where you're at. Where can we be in balance with one another? And sometimes we may not be, and that's okay too. And so the laws help me shift my energy to either get in balance and harmony with somebody or to be able to make a decision, oh, we're not a fit right now, and let them go. And that's right too. So sometimes we tolerate things so much that our body just says, can't do it. I have edema. I suffer with that with my legs. So whenever I get upset or anything, my legs just swell up. And it's a result of my own thinking. I'm just here to be me and hear other people. Whenever that gets ahead of me, my body reacts and says, we're not at ease. So I learned from that. I learned from those misses. I guess that makes sense.
It does. They're almost like triggers. Like, you know exactly what triggers your edema, just like the next person understands or is trying to understand what triggers their hair loss or their psoriasis or their Hashimoto's or what have you. All disease stems from an imbalance of sorts. And I'm assuming this is why the natural laws play a big part. And so if we are more in tune with the natural laws, then we would be more in balance, but not just knowing the laws, but it's also applying them.
It is a very interesting thing about the laws. The laws will teach you a lot about your thoughts, and it'll teach you how you can navigate through life. I told you two of them already, perpetual transmutation and polarity. Another one is relativity. I always look at relativity as sort of blue boxes. That's what I see in my head is 3 blue boxes. I have a small box, a medium box, and a big box. And so I'm in the middle box. Most of us live in the middle box, and we have somewhere we want to go, the big box. And we look at that and we say, ooh, I'd love to be in that house. I want to go to that house. I want to own that house. I want to be in that house. And so we look at it and we get really excited about it. But pretty soon we start getting feedback that we aren't in the house. And all of a sudden that dream is, I can't believe I'm not in that house. I've done everything for that house. I can't get into that house. And now we're using relativity against us. And so what we can do is we can take our little B box that we're in and we can look back at A and we can say, see how far we've come. Where I was today, where I am today was my big C box. And if I'm able to move from that to here, then I'm able to move over here. And using relativity is so important. It's one of the best ideas that I got was I had this idea I wanted to make $1 million in a year. And so I started feeling into it and it felt really big. Oh, it's so big. And then I met with somebody who making $1 million isn't difficult at all. And they had a different feeling about it. And I noticed their feeling. I didn't really care what they were doing, but I noticed the feeling. And the feeling is the secret. With the natural laws, it helps you adjust your feelings. So the question in relativity was, how do you make $1 million look small? You can't get in harmony with something that you have no vibration in your body with. So if you want to know how the laws work, pick something and use the laws to get you going in that direction. Does that make sense?
It does.
Most of us, we put our feelings on the side and we really just go by the mechanics or the physical of things. We work on the physical and we never check in with our feelings. And our feelings are where we are using the natural laws. Feelings are really vibration, resonance. That's what feelings are. Feelings are vibrations and it's resonance with us. That's why love is one of the highest attractors because love usually has a big feeling about it and it attracts. When you see somebody who enjoys something, you're like, oh, I don't know what that's about, but I sure want it. I recognize enjoyment or love or any of that. We have another natural law called the law of gender or gestation, masculine, feminine. And we're redefining that today in our society by more than just male and female. So masculine, feminine have really nothing to do with male and female bodies. It has to do with mindset and feeling. So masculine feeling would be like the sperm and the egg. The sperm is go, move. And the egg is in receivership. It's still. And most of us in our society today, we are very masculine driven. We're not that great at receivership. I'm sure you're a big giver. I am too. We tend to be big givers. And we'll be really big givers, and we suck at receiving. We're not good at receiving it back, and we feel empty most of the time. Receiving back is actually feminine energy. It's not doing for others. It's really actually just learning to be and receive. So in money, when it came to money, I learned to start receiving. Feminine energy is receiving gracefully and graciously. Of course, I would love to. Thank you for that. I used to be somebody that would say, no, I pay my own way. I don't need your help. So I started doing that in my coaching, and I changed my annual income into a monthly income, and then that monthly income into a weekly income, because I started practicing receivership. I started falling in love with all kinds of things. Like, how do you feel about sales? You like sales?
I do. The thing is, I've always said, like, when I believe in something, it's not even selling. It's really meeting a need for someone who needs it. That's all you're doing, is matching up the product to the person's wants and needs. I think that's easy.
I think it's really easy too. It's not, I think some people want to sell what they have, which is the wrong way. That's why we don't like sales, is people push what they have instead of asking, what do you want? And if I can help you get it, I will. And that's a really healthy way of selling. I love sales because I love serving, and I love to be able to find out what it is that you need. If I find out that I can't help you fulfill your need, then I'm not a match to help. And I'm okay to say, I don't know how to support you in that. Or I can ask, is there another way I can support you? So in my own business, like my husband and I, we've been married for 35 years. I'd always been somebody who was in the feminine position in our relationship. He was always masculine. I was always feminine. I was always receiving and taking care of everything. And then when I decided to become a coach, at the time I owned a restaurant, and both of my parents had passed away within a really short period of time. And at the same time, my girls, I have 3 girls, and they were leaving home. And so if I'm not a business owner, because I was so depressed, I couldn't do anything. If I walked out and I wasn't a business owner, and I wasn't a daughter, and I wasn't a mother, who am I? What am I resonating at? And I really didn't know me because I'd been taking care of so many people. I didn't really know what I was offering or giving people. I didn't really know what I was doing. This is where I got a goal. And the goal was I wanted to make more money, to have more freedom. And this is where I started applying what I wanted to do. I started creating my own cause and effects of things. And as I was doing them, I would go through moments of great wins and great losses, which was like the rhythm. That's another natural law, the rhythm. Sometimes we don't know how to read the rhythm of life. For instance, if the tide goes out, somebody could look and say, oh, look at all the water's gone. Or they could say, wow, look, there's a lot of shore to now beachcomb. Or if the water comes in, someone could say, oh, there's no more beach. And you could say, look at all the water that we have. You've got to find the good in everything. And we're always living in the rhythm of life. These were some of the laws that I began to put into my life every day to challenge myself to create the world I wanted to live in. And it wasn't up to the government. It wasn't up to the church. It wasn't up to the community. It was up to me. And I just turned the good into anything that I could by using the natural laws.
It's also about being present and understanding that it's really an evolution. What is this teaching us? Like when good things happen, when bad things happen, when, mistakes happen, or what is it teaching us? And even when it comes to health or hair loss or anything else, what is this teaching us? It's endless the amount of lessons that we can garner from a disease, from a health crisis, from a circumstance, from anything else. Is this part of my path? Is this not part of my path? And so what other laws are there and how can they apply to our lives?
I think there's something that's really important to understand. It's not necessarily a law, but it's understanding the equipment we have. We have this God-given equipment that we don't know how to turn on. Like we live on the spiritual plane, we live on the intellectual plane, and we live on the physical plane. The physical plane is the densest part of energy. Once it's in physical, it's very difficult to change. And we sit there and look at, like I have a wooden desk here. And if I wanted a glass desk and I have this wooden desk and I think, oh, why couldn't I have manifested a glass desk? I already have this wood desk. And we'll sit there and fight what is, when in reality, spiritually, I could have, before it came to the physical, said, what would I have loved? That feeling, or that going into the quantum realm and saying, what would I love to have? Even with your health, you can begin to say any idea that comes to you that is not in that vision of what you have, you can begin to say, I'm going to try and put this a different way. Our natural state is wellness. That is our natural state. Our natural state is richness. That's our natural state. So if we go past that or below, that's the beginning of our creativity.
So how do you start to help others in terms of using the natural laws and applying them to their own specific situation?
This is where you get into this thing about information over transformation. Tons of books out there, tons of things. You can even go to the internet right now and say, what are the 7 natural laws? It'll tell you and you can read them. But the thing is that you have information, but you haven't learned the transformation. That's a spiritual practice. I help people with their spiritual practice. That's what I do. I don't help them with information. If you want to coach for information, those are a dime a dozen. Go find them. They're out there. That's not me. I'm here for a spiritual practice of how do I now live from that way? How do I do that? One thing that I really help people understand is, how are you making decisions? What are you making decisions on? How are you being persistent in those decisions? And are you taking responsibility for those decisions? Are things happening to you or for you? Are you recognizing you're creating it, or are you blaming somebody else for it? We have an attraction to things and we say, that's your fault, and it's not. Why am I dialed into it? That's a better question. Same thing with wealth. I don't want to solve debt or problems with debt. Debt is there for debt. You'll never solve debt. Trust me. People will say, I'm trying to get out of debt. I want to get out of debt, and they want to solve debt. Can't solve it. It's not solvable. You want to solve prosperity. People will stay in debt and wrap another layer around it. And let's keep talking about debt and let's talk about debt, but they never go to prosperity. We don't understand how these natural laws can change you and get you out of the way you're thinking. But if you're not aware of it, you'll keep putting layers and layers on it. Your results will always tell the truth. So how do you use the laws to shift the way you're thinking? That's mindset. Yeah.
I've heard throughout my own journey that wherever energy goes is where the energy flows. And so in using that same analogy, we could also go back to saying, if we're always perpetuating and talking about a certain topic, well, you're just creating more of that topic, whether it's debt, health, hair loss, or whatever it is. Wherever your mind is at, whatever you're ruminating, whatever you're feeling is what you're essentially creating in terms of your own reality.
I have a piece of paper. I know you'll see it, but I don't think our listeners will see it. But I have a piece of paper, and on one side, it says the situation. People want to talk about the situation because they get a dopamine hit every time they remember something. And they go, ooh, I remember that. And it's recognizable. We get these hits from these chemistry within ourselves every time we remember something. And we feel like, oh yeah, I'm working on it. We're just wrapping another layer around it. Instead, on the opposite side is the solution. So you're either looking at the situation or you're looking at the solution. You can't look at them at the same time. This is knowing how the conscious and the subconscious mind works. We have this equipment in us that we have no idea how it works. No idea. But the mind can flip really fast. The conscious mind can flip very fast. And people don't understand the chemistry they're making. They don't understand the resonance that they're doing. And what would happen if you could study you and understand the thoughts you're thinking and the results you're getting? And if you can start understanding the solution in your life and you start drawing to that, the world opens up to you. It's like the unseen becomes seen. Like in your room right now, wherever you're at, do you see the color red anywhere?
Yes.
Were you thinking about red a few seconds ago?
No.
But the red was always in the room. but your attention was somewhere else. And if I told you paying attention to that is your success may look like. And you'll say, well, I don't even like the color red. I'm somebody who sees red as danger, blood, be careful. I don't look at red as someone else could look at it and say, oh, it's my favorite color. It's passion. It's adventure. It's all these different things. But I can see a stop sign and blood and all this kind of stuff, danger. So there is no meaning to red until we put a meaning to red. And sometimes the obstacle is actually the way through. And so sometimes when we look at an obstacle and we say, no, I don't like this, I don't like this. And then what would happen if we transformed it? What happens if it was something different? The stories we keep are the blocks that we have. And what would happen if you could let it go? Who would you be if you let that go? You may find there's a whole other world out there. Small things make perfection. This was a huge realization to me. Small things make perfection, but perfection is no small thing. Simplicity is really complex. And I hear a lot of people who want to do a big thing in a small way, restore their health or live in wellness. It's a very complex thing, but it becomes simple the more you surrender to it.
Yes.
And it's really learning to surrender. And I live this material. I study natural laws. I study science of mind. I'm not a neuroscientist. That's not what I do. I study success principles and I study natural law principles. I do it on a daily basis with people. I would probably be, when it comes to science of mind, I'm like a bodybuilder, like a thoroughbred. This is something that I live every day. I'm a thoroughbred locked in the barn. Can't wait to get out and share with people how much energy is around us.
For someone who's brand new to natural laws, what are some of the tips or guidance strategies that you would offer to them?
The best way to have the natural laws work, the absolute best way, is to pick a goal. That's the best way. And it's got to be something that you don't know how to do. It's got to be something. I didn't know how to turn my annual income into a monthly income. I liked the idea. I was inspired by the idea. It's got to be something that you have no idea how to do whatsoever. Pick something like that. And begin to, because if you do something you already know how to do, there is no growth in it. A goal is not to get. This is a misunderstanding about goals. A goal is not to get. A goal is to help you grow. It's in the growing that you get. The natural laws really help you do that. And I have a free little talk that I give once a week. It's not free, it's complimentary for sure. I'm never free. I'm available, but I'm never free. But anyhow, it's a complimentary event called Go For It. And in there, I really begin to help people understand why goals are so important, why it's good to recognize what a paradigm is, and the levels of awareness as you're growing. Most people don't know the levels of awareness, so they loop right back down to the old way of doing things. I'll give you the link for it and you can have people come to that. But that's one of the things, is learn to build a goal for yourself. I talk about that. And most people think goals are from something like 10, 15 years ago. Goals are different today. They're more of a beingness. It's not about accomplishing something. It's about learning to become something. Most of us, we get to this point where we think, I don't have to learn anymore. I know it all. I don't think you're like that. I think you're somebody who constantly is evolving, which is really great. And that's right. The universe is evolving every day. So are we. And when we stop, that's where we disintegrate. We start disintegrating.
Agreed. You have to keep continuously evolving or else you will start to die and go backwards. You see this in so many people who don't want to learn, who don't want to progress, who don't have goals. That truly is the worst disease, is like not being open-minded to something new, not wanting to grow, not wanting to pick up a new book, even if it's from a genre that or a topic that may or may not interest you, or maybe that you think is nonsense, but have this curiosity.
It's amazing when you stay in wonder, in wonderment. And I think when we constantly think we know what's behind the curtain, and we constantly are saying, oh, I know how that's going to turn out, or I know that's, and you don't stay in wonder, you never get to have incredible experiences. Sometimes I get so much in my own path that I don't see all the opulent opportunities that they are. I'm used to going this way, and I think I know behind the curtain. I say this very offensively, and I'm sorry about that, but any could tell you how it won't work. If I'm in a crowd of people that won't work, I get away from them. They're a disease I do not want.
What would be some of the strategies or maybe beginner's notes that you could share with us ever so slightly in terms of where do we start? Okay, so we know that there's universal laws. Yes, I can Google them. Yes, I can do my research. I can grab a book. But where would you start?
The first thing that I did is I really began the habit of feeling what polarity felt like. So, for instance, I remember when I first started practicing this law, I was in the store and every negative thought that would come, I probably stopped 4 or 5 times down the aisle and I would say, wait a minute, it is what it is. I'm used to thinking this way. No more effort is required for me to think this way. Which way feels better? And then I would start thinking on that way. But if you don't realize what you're doing, you're going to keep going in that direction. For instance, it's not that I want to correct you. That is not what I'm saying. But I noticed something that if you are looking for holes, guess what you're always going to have? Or blind spots. You're always going to have a blind spot. You're always going to have a hole. You're always going to have that. Or if you say, I enjoy my life and my life is richer and it unfolds, guess what you'll notice? More unfolding. I know people think the answer is the natural laws, but it's not learning the natural laws. It's living them. It's learning to take situations and apply it there and be with your thoughts and say, what would happen if I could apply this law here?
I have lots of clients who want to get their hair. I teach them how. They know how. But what about for other things like having a baby or maybe even the hardest thing is maybe switching jobs or careers or like moving to another country with zero anything, friends, family, what have you. Would you say your work is similar or not at all in the same ballpark as, let's say, Joe Dispenza?
Oh, I love Joe Dispenza. I love the practice that he does with meditation, and I've read his books. I love that. I believe there's 3 things people need when they start changing their paradigm. Number 1, they need a program to help evaluate themselves. I'm not here selling a program. I'm just saying you have to have something to evaluate yourself. The second thing is you need a coach or a mentor to help you see things you may not see for themselves. If they're having success, they feel the energy and they can talk about the energy. The third thing is I believe you need a community of people that are studying the same thing. I think those 3 things are what are necessary to help you shift a paradigm. I don't think people realize how insidious they are. And when you're around people that are finding new and innovative ways, it really encourages you. And there's not very many of us that are in environments where we have an evaluation tool, we have a coach that's there for you, and you have a community. And those 3 things are what's so important. They were saying that the blue zones, everybody talked about eating the right way in the blue zones and everything. And now the study has come out that actually what it is community. Community is what's creating the longevity in people in the blue zones because they're usually in small communities and they learn to overcome. And they learn to overcome with a group of people. And this is what's called the anterior mid-singular cortex within us, which this is where they find people with longevity or sports is highly developed in the brain because it's a mindset piece that they do. And it's a part of their mind that in the brain, it grows and grows. And they call it the will. And so when you're challenging yourself, this is where this gets developed, when you're able to overcome difficult things. And most people, they don't know how to challenge themselves. And that's really what creates longevity. It's not having it easy and simple, although it does become easy and simple. It's the beginning. It's how you show up in difficulty, how you handle difficulty. And most people don't know how to handle difficulty. That's what the laws helped me do. How do I turn the difficulty into something of ease? And this is what creates this mid-anterior singular cortex, this will to do it. That's an emotional intelligence that you build in your ability to overcome.
I think you're right about the community because I've been to Okinawa. So Japan is a blue zone. I used to live there. And I went to Okinawa and I was like, this is it. Am I something? I've traveled to over 60 countries and I'm like, I'm not impressed. I'm not impressed ever. The thing about the Japanese, there's longevity. But Okinawa is also known for having the best weather. So I would probably add in that weather is also a factor in terms of these blue zones. Costa Rica, where another blue zone is amazing weather all year round. But for sure, it's the community too, because I'm not going to say that a lot of the food, for example, in Costa Rica or even in Japan is like crazy healthy. There's a lot of garbage anywhere you go.
Yeah.
There's good food, there's junk food, there's healthy food, but it's all a choice.
The part of changing the way we think or what we know about it, success leaves clues. It really does. And I think when you are following somebody who has success, you don't want to look at their effect of it. You want to look at what was their cause of it. And they live from the end. A lot of times they live with a feeling of the end. And that's a spiritual practice. You don't just do it 1 or 2 days. You do it many times during the day for many days. There's a thing called a torture called death by 1,000 cuts. What I teach is there's actually success by 1,000 awareness. And so you're removing something and you're bringing in something. It's amazing when you realize what you're hanging on to. I really teach this concept of bless and release of things to make room for more new. And we tend to not know how to do that in nature. We tend to hang on to, this is how I was, and this is how I was brought up, and this is the way it's going to be. And we have a lot of traditions, a lot of things we think we have figured out that worked 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago, but don't work today. So it's renewing of our mind every day to go further than we have before, and to do it effortlessly, in ease and flow. We all come with some sort of light in us, and it's up to us to figure out a way. And the universe is really friendly to a way. You just might have to let go of what you think the way is. The quicker you are to surrender, the quicker you are to manifesting.
This has been so amazing, Angie. It's been very insightful. You've hit a lot of topics. Definitely makes me more intrigued into these 7 laws of nature and also into the universal laws. Where can our listeners find us or find you?
Yeah, you can go to Elevate You Institute, elevateyouinstitute.com. On there, it'll have my upcoming events and things. I have a course called The Path to Resilience, which is really a study that I do on the natural laws. We do it every 12 weeks. We put one on. So there's a way for you to come and be a part of that. I do a go for it little talk each week, and I suggest doing that. You can contact me through my website for sure. I have a Facebook and Instagram as well, Angie Tumlinson. There's lots of ways. I would love to be able to help any way I can. If you want to download the natural laws, if you go to my website, I can make sure that we get you one there too.
Are there any pieces or words of advice or encouragement that you'd love to leave our listeners with before we go?
Order is heaven's first law. Get order with yourself, and you'll be surprised at the success that you'll have by just learning to learn about you. Find that order within you and that resonance within you, and you'll resonate with other people.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much for your time, your wisdom, and for all your experiences that you've shared today. I appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Alopecia Angel podcast, a positive light in healing alopecia. You can do this and we can help. Spread the word that reversing alopecia is possible by telling your friends and family.